How nice of you to join us this morning. Glad you're here. Glad I'm here, for that matter. Good morning. Good morning, dear Dharma friends. Sound is okay? Question mark? It's funny when you do a lot of dictation, you start speaking weirdly.
Recording?
Not yet. Thank you, Jim. I am deputizing you, just in case. All righty. Well, it's September the 7th, 2020. In the first year of COVID. May it not be the first of several. How are you this morning? It's interesting, isn't it? You never know. One never knows in what state one will awaken. I have some sore muscles this morning. Jennifer wanted something had to happen. We moved the wood pile yesterday, which involved a couple of hours of using a chainsaw, and not muscles I use often anymore. So a bit stiff. A bit stiff. How lovely to see you. It's so beautifully familiar. You are so beautifully familiar. Do you have plans for today? I'm going to spend probably 5 hours in the recording studio, finishing recording Mindfulness for a Happy Life. What a big job it is to record a book. Goodness gracious. The fellow who does the recording has this microphone worth thousands of dollars. Interestingly, it was built in Western Germany. It's an antique mic. But it picks up every little sound, a lip smack or something like that. It picks it up, and then that has to be edited out. So, we're here to practice. This is a teaching guidance poem of a sort from Lao Tzu, from the Hua Hu Ching, related to the Tao Te Ching. This is the nature of the unenlightened mind. The sense organs, which are limited in scope and ability, randomly gather information. This partial information is arranged into judgments, which are based on previous judgments, which are usually based on someone else's foolish ideas. These false concepts and ideas are then stored in a highly selective memory system. Distortion upon distortion, the mental energy flows constantly through contorted and inappropriate channels, and the more one uses the mind, the more confused one becomes. To eliminate this vexation of the mind, it doesn't help to do something. This only reinforces the mind's mechanics. Dissolving the mind is instead a matter of not doing. Simply avoid becoming attached to what you see and think. Relinquish the notion that you are separated from the all-knowing mind of the universe. Then you can recover your original pure insight and see through all illusions. Knowing nothing, you will be aware of everything. Remember, because clarity and awakening are within your own nature, they are regained without ever moving an inch. This is the nature of the unenlightened mind. The sense organs, which are limited in scope and ability, randomly gather information. This partial information is arranged into judgments, which are based upon previous judgments, which are usually based on someone else's foolish ideas. These false concepts and ideas are then stored in a highly selective memory system. Distortion upon distortion, the mental energy flows constantly through contorted and inappropriate channels. The more one uses the mind, the more confused one becomes. To eliminate this vexation of the mind, it doesn't help to do something. This only reinforces the mind's mechanics. Dissolving the mind is instead a matter of not doing. Simply avoid becoming attached to what you see and think. Relinquish the notion that you are separated from the all-knowing mind of the universe. Then you can recover your original pure insight and see through all illusions. Knowing nothing, you will be aware of everything. Remember, because clarity and awakening are within your own nature, they are regained without ever moving an inch. Thank you, Lao Tzu. Another day of life experience. How shall we ground it? How shall we make sense of it in its profound unpredictability? Well, why not take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha? Can you hear the guitar?
The guitar's a little too loud compared to the voice, actually.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim. How about now? How's that sounding, Tim?
That's about right.
I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sangayam. And so now, how to actually do nothing. How to stop thinking ourselves out of the maze. It's a really challenging thing to do because we've had so much education. We've grown up in a world that says thinking will set you free. And in some ways, that's true. But around the really fundamental question, who am I? Thinking isn't much help. Instead, remembering to remember to be mindful, to be that which is awake. The body is a cloud of life. Why not inhabit it? Awareness comes into contact with the feet, with all the places where the clothing touches the body. With the life that is the hands. With the life of the face. And with the coming and going of the breath. And in our curiosity about life, we become very curious about the breath, about the sensations of breathing, about the wandering mind, about moods, about the opinions that the mind holds for and against this and that. Each breath has a beginning. It always starts now. The now of the breath disappears, and then it's now. The chest and abdomen rise, expand, come to fullness, and then decline and disappear. The same is true of thoughts and opinions, of emotions and fears and hopes. There are sensations, and there is awareness of sensations. We can't really directly be aware of awareness, but we can know of it. We can certainly know when mindfulness arises. We'll be lost completely in some wandering mind, some obsession, some worry, some creative undertaking. And then suddenly there is awareness of that thought process, maybe of the emotion involved in it. Notice those moments of awakening, those moments of realizing you're not the thoughts, you're not the emotions. You're something much more mysterious. resting in the present moment. Bringing awareness back into the intimate aliveness of the body. Opening now to the life in the legs, the pelvis, the abdomen and solar plexus, and the chest. And we bring to our practice the qualities of love and compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. I aspire to love and accept myself exactly as I am in this moment and in all future moments. There's plenty of ways that we hurt physically, emotionally. Whenever I'm hurting, no matter how I'm hurting, I aspire to hold myself in sweet, gentle compassion. When I'm experiencing delight, when the heart is open, when pleasant things are happening, I aspire to fully enjoy that, to fully engage with that, to be mindful of the conditions, the causes. And in the face of all the instability, all the suffering that I encounter in my own life and in the lives of my loved ones and family and the world. I aspire to practice deeply and to recognize that the world unfolds in polarities, pleasure and pain, gain and loss, faith and doubt, sickness, health. I aspire to meet the world with equanimity. We are each passing through a human lifetime. We have a story, the story of our birth and what happened in our childhood and infancy and our teen years, 20s, 30s, 40s, some of us 50s and 60s. That's all over now. And what there is now. To remember this even partially will blow our hearts open to ourselves and each other. I think of Shakespeare with his "All the world's a stage and all the men and women are merely players." We have our exits and our entrances, and each one of us plays many parts. So bringing love to this moment, the natural love which arises from seeing, from knowing our true circumstance. Wish yourself well. Experience the breath and do so with great appreciation and gratitude. And maybe make an intention to stay in touch with the breath all day. Do you have plans for today? Why not include an extra plan, which is to remember to become, to reveal your lovingness, your presence, or more accurately, the lovingness of the presence. Please let us call in this moment to the altar of our hearts the giants who are our teachers, who have supported us in this lifetime to become more awake and loving. Not just spiritual teachers, but what about that 5th grade teacher or the high school history teacher? Someone who took interest in you saved your life, maybe. The Buddhists call it sharing of the merit. We can call it anything we like, and it's an opening of our memories and our emotions, and a wishing well. I invite specifically to the altar of our hearts Ruth Dennison. Great friend, guide, benefactress, teacher. And now, please bring awareness into this whole form that sits here, into the face, the cheeks, the lips, the forehead, and the eyes. And now doing what's necessary, forming an intention to lift the eyelids, to create the conditions for seeing. And then letting those conditions unfold so that the eyelids actually lift themselves up. Takes a fair amount of work, interestingly. And then we have seeing. But let's always transition out of meditation, out of the formal training, with great kindness, great sensitivity. And notice what happens in seeing. In this instance, we can see one another. Notice someone. Wish them well. Thank you for coming to practice together this morning.
The message today.
I'm supposed to show intention.
Please remember to keep yourself muted.
Everybody.
Interesting. Well, I think I'm going to forego announcements today. Enough. So what is happening, dear friends? What discoveries are you making? What challenges do you face today? How is the Dharma blossoming in your heart? Do you have any questions? All you have to do is press the unmute button and there you'll be. I guess I should also say, do you have any songs of joy for what's happening in your life? If you'd like some tomatoes, just raise your hand and I'll slide some through the camera. We are overrun. It's crazy, actually. We've never had a crop like this. You can only make so much tomato sauce. We're going to try ketchup. That'll be the next thing. We're very fortunate in that within a mile, there's I forget the name, I think it may be Neighborhood House, that any extra produce that we have, we can take there and it's distributed the same day. And they distribute to 1,100 different people. That's a little sad and frightening, isn't it?
Good morning, Sangha and Robert.
Hello, Allison.
During the meditation, I heard that I'm not my thoughts and I'm not my feelings. I am something greater than that. And I think I've heard it before, but I'm different today. I'm different every day, I think. So that meant a lot to me because, well, I after I heard that, I really took it in, and I have an aspiration to be something greater than my thoughts and my feelings today. And I don't know what that's going to be about. I have, maybe a couple of plans, but I don't know how today's going to pan out. And it kind of makes me happy to have that. I'm something greater than my thoughts and feelings. It's mysterious, but I'm going to keep that in my heart today. So thank you.
Thank you, Allison. How's your healing going, Allison?
Kind of in fits and starts. It is coming along. I'm grateful for that. I wish it were a little different in some things, but I still have quite a bit of pain.
Yeah.
But I'm making some progress.
Yay! Thank you.
It's been a journey. It's been a real journey, and I'm so grateful for the Dharma. So it's really a big thing. It's a big thing. I don't know what I'd do without it. So, and I love coming to these morning meditations.
It's great, isn't it, to gather together? I agree.
Mm-hmm. It really helps. Thank you.
Hey Robert, this is Vic.
Vic, good morning.
Good morning. I was thinking about your talk yesterday about equanimity, and I think I find it difficult to differentiate between, or rather not differentiate, but my tendency, I think, is to go more into apathy and indifference,
Mm.
and how to stay open enough to let the hurt and the potential for hurt in and still be even keeled, I think is difficult for me, at least. I don't know if you can speak to how to stay with equanimity and not give it a tendency of apathy and indifference.
What comes to mind is that Sangha is really important. And that having enough external and internal, the external support is when we're overwhelmed or when we're close to overwhelmed with emotion, when the world is too much with us. And the strategy that the mind will come up to with is apathy, and I just can't care. I just got to. And I think perhaps it's very important to pay attention to that and to then ask oneself the question: what's happening that my sensitivity is overwhelmed? And I'm needing to dull myself out like this, and to create greater space, to seek out loving connection, to find a way to do the grief work that's necessary. I just remembered something Joanna Macy said at a workshop I was at with her, that she was pleading with us, please, do your grief work. Face the pain that's in you right now. Because if you don't, when the going gets rough, you will turn on your loved ones. So either we'll turn on our loved ones or we'll turn ourselves off. So that's an external piece, I think. An internal piece is to develop our practice to such a point that we can, in fact, turn to concentration. And lower the stimulus, lowering the onslaught from within, so that we can actually sit peacefully in great ease. And that's a skill. That's a developable practice. And what that means partially is making our meditation much more important in our lives. Right? We tend to think of, and meditation is marketed as, well, here's something you can do for 20 minutes a day so you can become more efficient. Contrast that with, why don't you make an hour a day? And why don't you come when it's possible? Why don't you do a retreat real soon? Why not take a 5-day or 10-day or a month-long retreat to turn meditation into something which is a real power in your life? And that's doable. I mean, it's not always doable to be able to do such it's sometimes not economically feasible. Right now it's COVID, not very feasible. But Part of the promise of this teaching is that we can, in fact, learn to cultivate a mind which is much more welcoming and therefore and much more pliable. And so when we get overwhelmed, we can lower the control rods, cool the reaction. And I think our equanimity is a natural state. It's what's there when we're in balance and we're adequately nourished and protected. Any help?
Thank you, Robert.
I've been thinking of that ladder. Since COVID started, I have been spending more time in practice, and I'm noticing the effect. The world always wants us to perform more, to be more active, to be more efficient, to get more done. And then we get this thing done, and it doesn't really often it doesn't make any difference. We now have a really beautiful woodpile. Jennifer is a great woodpiler. It's an art piece, actually. It's so cool. And it doesn't make any difference, really. It's just the backyard's a little prettier. That's nice. But there's still dukkha. There's still that. I'm not saying don't do the prettying things at all, but let's remember what's really, really, really important. This clearing my throat business is a little unnerving because today in the recording studio, I'll be, as this has happened the other 2 days, I'll be reading away and doing great. So really on a roll. And then suddenly there'll be a little phlegm, and then he'll stop the recording and say, pause. It's starting to get rumbly. It's like that damn microphone. But it will make a difference in the output.
Good morning, all.
Hi, Francine.
Good morning. I have a report about my small couple-day retreat. I did get to into the trees a couple days at the end of last week, and thank you, Vic, for your question, because it really brought to mind my experience over those 2 days. I did get into a very, very quiet setting, and didn't to speak, although I did some singing. And I probably cried every hour, I think, something like that. Just sort of spontaneously, working through, sort of this undefined grief. And I'm always relieved by that. I learned a long time ago that tears were the river of life, and we just let them flow. So it's easy enough for me to cry. I had a very difficult time coming back to town and dealing with stuff. It was a really huge letdown. And maybe, I felt like almost, crashed into a brick wall of having to deal with stuff. So then I had to have a lot more tears about how much, thank you, Vic, for the words, you shut down, or I shut down, in order not to deal with that, the stuff. simply good to know. My retreat took about 2 more days to get back to some sort of balance. Good to be here this morning.
I just had a thought, Francine, that we probably need to shut down. And we will shut, if we are overwhelmed, if there's too much stimulus coming from inside and outside, we will shut down unconsciously. If we take the time to practice and we develop our capacity of concentration and insight and the kind of aikido of letting things come and go, then we can shut down more on our own terms than being overwhelmed and the organism shutting down. Is that making sense? That there's a funny the way stuff comes up. It's so weird. If we were to take a tablespoon of salt and put it in a glass and stir it, it would be pretty salty water. If we took that same tablespoon of salt and put it in the Willamette River, it would simply disappear. And the invitation, I think I heard this from my teacher Manindra, the invitation in Dharma practice is that every day to develop our practice so that every day we can become the river for a little while. And we can drop into the place of being in the forest, or however we know it, but that we learn how to really let go of everything for a time. And then we're much more resilient because we know where the river is. We know that we are the river. And then we can tolerate the shocks and the stressors of modern living, and modern living during a pandemic with madness afoot, because we touch our toe back into the river. Does that make sense? I look over here because I've got you're rather large, full screen over here. Hi.
Mine is doing that this morning. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. So thank you.
I did have a company for quite a while. There was a hawk that lived in the area. It was a giant big bird that just stayed most of the time. So good company was had.
Here's Budo. He woke up. Hi, Budo. He's a little bit less painful, Jennifer. I think he is too. He's on a little steroid now at coming up on his 15th birthday. Yes, good boy. He reminds me of one of my favorite little Winnie the Pooh poems. Piglet sidled up to Pooh and said, "Pooh?" "What, Piglet?" said Pooh. "Oh, nothing. I just wanted to be sure of you." I think that's a bit like coming together in Sangha, isn't it? I just wanted to be sure of you. So it's a little after 8. Is there something that wants to be spoken?
morning, Robert and Sangha. It's Palakini. Good morning.
Hello, Palakini.
Hi there. I just wanted to share about my granddaughter. She is home now from Boston Children's Hospital, and she had this surgery to open up her trachea. So her trachea is now tethered to her sternum. The back of this trachea is tethered to her spine. So now she can breathe easier. And wow, what an appreciation for the medical profession. And it was rough going for a couple of days. She had to wean off and go through withdrawals of all the drugs she was on. And then she went through a very interesting, it's called ICU delirium, where she just wasn't herself and sort of stared out in space and didn't recognize us. But fortunately that passed in about 24 hours. And we came home, we flew home on Saturday evening, and just happy to report that she's very much herself. And I just wanted to thank you for all your well wishes. So thank you. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Well, I hope you have a fine day of practice. A fine day of reaping the fruits of your practice. Finding ways to be mindful in every activity. Thank you so much for zooming in. I am strengthened, as always, by your presence. Pretty important. So let's go out on a song, unmuting all. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. That was really melodious. I love it. The harmony. Did you hear the high harmonies? It was just incredible. Happy trails, dear friends. Have a good day.
Have a good day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Robert. Miss Saga.
Bye-bye.
Someone has chickens. Who's that? I mean, it sounds like they're in your house. Good. How fun. Oh, that's very refreshing. Do you have a rooster?
No.
No.
No, just chickens.
You know,
They're not usually quite so wild.
many years ago, how long was it? It was, I don't know, 15 years ago or so, I had a vacation in Bali, and I stayed in a little guest house outside Ubud, and all night the dogs barked. I mean, there were dogs the whole night. And then at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, the roosters started, and I was intrigued in how precise my hearing was. I started pointing at where I could hear them, and they were 360 degrees, and just one there and one there. There were so many of them. It was wild.
That is the thing about roosters. They don't wait till dawn.
No, they're yeah. It's a fantasy, isn't it? Though when dawn comes, they do get a little bit. There's more of them. Well, thank you, dear friends. Have a lovely. Goodbye, dear friends on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you for joining us.